Welcome back to the Ad Project Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Maarja Hewitt.
And I'm Joe Shelerud.
Also known as Joseph.
I don't think
Well, I decided since you like to say my name how you want to say it, that maybe that's how we should say Joe.
Oh, that's really going to get back at me.
Joseph.
That's going to be tough.
Actually, I have a lot of names for you.
Oh, really?
Well, no, Slappy Joe, Average Joe, Joe Exotic.
Sure.
Joe just has a lot of, there's a lot of characters around Joe.
So is it actually for me, or is it just Joe's in the name?
Well, it's true. We do have another Joe on our team now.
That's true.
We'll find out soon.
I'm just going to go and test these. Yeah.
Anyways, welcome to the Ad Project Podcast once again.
Yep.
We're getting ready for back to school as parents.
Yes.
But it's also the time to really prepare for Q4. Even though it seems a while away still, it's not.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. Yeah, it's August, it's the end of summer, and we're already talking about Q4 and holiday planning. It's a crazy world we're in. And it seems like the holiday season keeps getting closer and closer as the holiday season keeps expanding too.
It does. I am kind of ready for Halloween already, though.
Big Halloween person, aren't you?
I am.
Yeah.
September 1st, I'll start putting up the Halloween decor. So.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So we're going to talk a little bit today about a 7-point checklist, essentially, to help prepare you for what you should be thinking about as you go into Q4, and hopefully set you up for success for this primetime Super Bowl of retail media.
Yeah. So lots to plan for, and we'll joke about it, but starting to plan right now. There's so many pieces that need to come into fruition to really have a successful Q4. We're working with our clients right now to start planning for it. So just want to cover that, get it on everybody's minds.
Yep. So probably one of the biggest elements of Q4 planning is budgeting.
Yep.
It is a long period of sometimes unknowns of, consumer behavior and things like that, and length of deals and shopping events. But it's 3 months of higher shopper intent. So you want to make sure that you're budgeting accordingly, because it's not just like the turkey 12 or 17 or whatever it is now. But also Prime Big Deal Days is in early October, and that can see some quite a bit of traffic as well.
Yeah. So key things to keep in mind, and what we've seen shifts throughout the years is, earlier, when the holidays shopping season was a little bit more condensed, you would see these major spikes for different holiday events, and typically it was Black Friday through a Cyber Monday time period. Now that we've expanded to the Turkey 12 and other people are running different events ahead of time, and we have items like Prime Big Deal Days coming up, just making sure that you're budgeting for all these different events that are going on, and just noting that as we look at boosts in traffic for each of these, it's not as substantial if you look in day in, day out, but at the same time, there's more to budget for. And so historically, what we're doing is we're looking back at these different events, planning what the budget increases look like, and then making sure that we've got it allocated correctly across the whole period. Getting good budget allocation ahead of time, especially if you need to get your management involved, get the C-suite involved, making sure that once we have a full set budget allocated, if you do have structured budgeting, then making sure it's allocated correctly and where it's going to have the most impact throughout the holiday shopping season should be some major conversations that you're having right now.
Yeah. And something to note, every year we look back at the holiday season as a whole and mostly review it by traffic, so impressions and conversion rate. And as the season is lengthening, you definitely see an increase in impressions during those early deal weeks, but you still tend to see kind of a flat conversion just because people are window shopping. They're kind of holding out for those name days of Black Friday and Cyber Monday. So I would definitely look back at last holiday season at your traffic and your conversion rate just to see what maybe you can plan for today or this year. I don't know if they can extend those shopping events that much longer, because I
At this
think
point,
they're
you just totally dilute it out, and
Yeah.
it'll just be Q4.
yeah, I have to imagine it'll be fairly similar. Obviously, there's other external factors, but the events themselves, I can't imagine they're going to change that much.
Yeah, and I think one piece that you're getting to too is the way that budgets are allocated from your advertising should shift throughout the holiday shopping period too. So in the initial stages, when we're trying to drive more interest, or say right before deal days, focusing on more upper funnel advertising that's going to drive that brand awareness, those initial impressions, get people introduced to your brand, they should be getting more budget. As we're getting later on, say like in early December, conversion rates tend to be a lot higher because people are now completing those final purchases before the holidays come along. And so shifting more budget down to lower funnel tactics at that point to drive that final sale can be critical. So it's not just the overall advertising budgets, while that's a big discussion there, but it's also how it's allocated between the different parts of the funnel. Also has a big impact on how performance is going to be.
Yep, good point. Another item on the checklist, and this isn't an advertising side of things, but it obviously impacts advertising, is just making sure you have inventory in place. That's probably well on your mind already. Sure. And should be in place by now.
Yeah. And one key piece here that I see some folks missing is it's easy to say inventory should be available, but what's really hard is forecasting and trying to figure out what we need in stock going into these periods. And then the other piece that I see missed a lot more than you'd think is once inventory is ordered, now what is our actual forecast for sales? So we want to sell through this inventory in Q4. And so being able to clearly communicate to others around you, or if you have an agency that you're working with, like, here are my core goals for these different products. Then we can structure the advertising around that. And so it seems simple, but it's a piece that I see miss quite a bit, is like, what are the core goals that we're trying to achieve? And as you're ordering inventory, or if you're looking at like, what should be my plan, getting those conversations going from the start is critical, so then everybody's on the same page. And best case, we have a aggressive plan for inventory and things go really well and we start selling through. Well, then from the advertising side, we can pull back so we're not wasting advertising dollars on products that you're selling enough organically and you can't get stock back in. So key piece is for the planning going into Q4, making sure you're having those conversations and that everybody's on the same page. What are the key goals? What are we trying to sell through? And then that should cascade to the rest of the strategy that you have.
Right. You might not think the logistics of it all is important to your advertising partner, but it needs to be, like it definitely goes hand in hand.
For sure. Yeah. And so make sure you're communicating that. Very critical.
Another item on your checklist has to do with creative, so building and testing early. What I love about the holiday season is that you can get very creative with creatives and have very targeted messaging and switch up your creative from the rest of the year. I've read several studies about the impact of, holiday centered creatives with urgency that definitely makes an impact on those Black Friday, Cyber Monday days.
Sure. Yeah. And where this gets really fun too is when you layer in the right audience groups with this too. So they have to be at the right part of the funnel. So for like an urgency message, probably want them already to be aware of our brand and our product. And so then if you've got an event like Cyber Monday, okay, now that urgency message could really resonate and could lead to those final conversions. So that would be a key piece. And then the other item is like, you could tie in either like, say if it's like people just shopping for like general gifts, you can broaden the keywords that you're targeting. Say if I have a sponsored brand ad that I want to update the creative for that kind of speaks to that, somebody who's browsing around looking more for general gifts, like I can target that with the ad creative itself. Once we get further up the funnel, there's a lot more options that are available. So just throwing that holiday spin on it can be great. Now is the time to start getting those creatives together where then we can keep testing them as we go.
And the nice thing too is with, AI tools and AI tools that like Amazon has built into the ad console, you can do a lot of different versions of creatives and test them and make sure they align at every stage of the funnel and the messaging is going to resonate with that audience you're targeting. So it's definitely easier now too.
Yeah, and this is where AI is having a huge impact on the advertising industry as a whole, where before, and we've talked about this in previous podcasts, and we'll keep talking about this in future podcasts, like before the creative part of the ad. So whether it's the display ad itself or the video creatives, like that was always a limited, you could only do so many of them. And then you'd build the campaign around that. Now when we can create so many different versions, it just leads us to really being able to test these out continuously, let the data tell us where to go, and then the creative can actually inform the audience in some of these areas versus, well, I guess it was led that way before, but we can combine the two together, and then it just allows so many more iterations that you can do to figure out what's the right creative, what's going to resonate. And for a condensed window that we have over the holiday shopping season, the more that we can test, the quicker that we can test, the better results that we're going to have. So we're really going to be able to lock in on what's working well.
And it's only going to get better. I mean, you still have scenarios with these generators of, 3 fingers, or my favorite was like a milk frother that then turned into a tennis ball.
Yeah.
In some of these, tests we've done.
Yeah.
But it's only getting better.
Yep.
So
I love to say around the office, like AI is the worst it's ever going to be today. We have Al on our team who also looks like AI. And so, the quote is that Al is the worst that he's ever going to be today too.
Poor Al.
Poor guy.
He's so nice too.
He'll show up on calls and it says Al, but people will think that he's a robot. Until he comes on video and they're like, oh, I thought you were like a note taker app or something. He's like, no, I'm Al.
He's a real person. I could see Al. He has a great sense of humor, so I could see him kind of playing into that though.
We've talked about like how you should just like stay very still at first.
Oh, Al.
Yeah. So, the AI, especially on the creative side, it's opening up so many different opportunities to test really quickly. So if you start getting those ideas together, then once it's go time, we can run them, we can see what works, and then you can just iterate really quickly.
Joe, you kind of touched on this, but the next item on the checklist is strengthening your full funnel strategy.
Sure.
So, it's not just, making sure your budget is planned for the quarter, it's aligning those with strategies and planning that now. We just had an ops meeting where all of our account managers get together, and we were discussing Q4, and something Tony, our Duke of DSP programmatic strategy guy, brought up the purchase timeline report, which is an AMC report, which can be very helpful in kind of planning out your timing, because how long does it take for a new to brand customer to convert after seeing an ad?
Sure.
And then you kind of want to work backwards from that, because if that's 72 days, it takes that long, that's how you want to start placing your strategy in terms of when to show them ads.
Yeah, this has been a fun one, and one that comes up in conversations quite a bit, especially as we're planning for the holiday shopping period. With the purchase timeline report, like Maria just said, it says from the first time you're exposed to an ad, how long does it typically take to purchase a product? And when I started seeing this data, it was surprising to me because it was a lot longer than what I anticipated. Like my mental model is I go on Amazon and I usually like search for something and then I buy it. But in many different instances, it's like 50, 70, 90 days
2 months,
yeah. Yep, that people from that first ad exposure to when they actually purchase. And so this one's really opened the eyes of a lot of advertisers that we work with, because when you start working your way back from like the Prime Big Deal days, and you work your way 2 months forward, we're pretty much there right now. And so we want to start introducing people to ads and get them to the products and get them into the funnel so they meet that typical timeline. yes, the holiday shopping season could condense that timeline a bit as you have more urgency to place the purchase. But at the same time, like if you're a higher ticket item or something that requires more research, like you need to allocate more time to get in front of people. And so this is one that I would definitely check out, especially if you're trying to get your management on board for like starting holiday shopping ads like now. This is a great one that resonates with people where it's like, okay, I can do the math backwards and we need to get going right now. And then this all comes back to the budget allocation discussion. So now it's upper funnel introduction to the products, and then we work our way down as we approach these different events.
Another great way too to figure out your timing is to like look at a search query performance report and look back at last year, August, September, and look at those search terms, and when you start seeing a change in the gifting categories, things like that, that'll give you some insight too.
For sure.
Yeah, so full funnel strategy, you remember it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So you you need to usher people down the funnel till that urgency is there. This next checklist I think is pretty self-explanatory, but keep an eye on your competitors and monitor your share of voice. So just keep an eye on what they're doing and how your efforts are impacting your share of voice and what your element in the category. So obviously in the ad console, there's a bunch of different tools, brand analytics that can give you some category benchmarks and things like that.
Yep. Yeah. And this can be really helpful with those conversations on like, hey, sales weren't as high this week. Like what drove that? And just looking at your share of voice or your share of purchases. If I look at like the search query performance report, it can be a really effective way to communicate to management, or if you're running the business too, to just understand like, hey, is this something that's market driven, or is this something that like maybe is related to me? Did something else change? Are my competitors gaining ground? And with how volatile it can be, and with the holiday shopping season always changing too, it can be really hard to predict, like, okay, should sales be up or down this week with all the different events going on? So looking at those metrics, it can be a really good benchmark on like, all right, is this a me thing or is this a market thing right now? And the answer to those two questions will really drive like where you focus your time and your efforts.
Yeah, and that's a good place to start when you notice a change
Yep.
too, is to go to that question first. We've been talking a lot of Amazon, but of course, it is a very, very busy shopping season, and all the retailers are competing with events. And we've seen that year after year, it's gotten longer, and more retailers are extending their shopping events. And so there's a lot of competition out there. So you want to make sure that your efforts are kind of balanced or honed in on where you are going to make the biggest impact.
Sure. Yeah. And I think one thing that we do internally too is we just make a board or a calendar up with all the different event days. And then we're working our way backwards from all those based off of the strategies that we're implementing. So whether it's in Walmart or Target or, DoorDash, Instacart, all these have different time frames that we're looking at, different ads that we're running. So just making sure that one, you've got good visibility on when all these deals are going. And then two, this opens up a whole nother discussion on which channels I allocate budget into. And so we could spend a ton of time on that, but it should be a major discussion too. And high level, this ties back to what's the core strategy and then the inventory planning side. So where do I actually have products? And then creating, I would say, channel level strategies for each of these to make sure, again, that your ad strategy lines up with your overarching strategy for that channel, which cascades back to your overall business strategy. So everything should all be tied together and integrated.
Yes, sounds so simple.
Yep, pretty easy. Yeah.
So many moving pieces.
Yeah.
And then, finally, I think probably the most impactful on this list, the final seventh point, is measuring and adapting with AMC.
Sure.
So whether that's like looking back at last season,
Mm-hmm.
which there definitely were patterns that we noticed. And we have a full article on adadvance.com that dives deep into traffic and conversion and things like that for the whole holiday season. But that's going to be kind of your starting point for looking at last year. And AMC is going to allow you to do that at a much more granular level.
Yeah. So with AMC, we can look back to the previous shopping season. Now with the advanced look backs that we have, just understanding different trends throughout the holiday shopping time frame. Like, if I look at a weekend day compared to a weekday, how I optimize and run my ads could look very different between the two. Another item to keep into mind is like shipping deadlines. So just understanding the trends, like, all right, after I get past Thanksgiving weekend, like, what should I expect in December? Well, December typically is going to have higher volume and pretty high conversion rates as people are getting close to the holiday shopping period.
Yeah.
Yep. And so it's a great time to be running, especially like lower funnel ads. But then I hit a point right before like Christmas where shipping deadline kicks in and then people shift to like in-store last minute purchases. So understanding when that is, time frames, like as shipping gets better and better, that keeps getting pushed back. But having a good game plan for all these different areas, like, all right, so here's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to build awareness early on, and then I have a tentpole event for Prime Big Deal Days, and then one of Walmart's events come along, and I'm going to spike for that, and then Black Friday, Cyber Monday, okay, I've got the lead into that. And so kind of working your way back from these different events and almost having like specific strategies for each of them. And then post-event, how do I capture and re-engage the traffic that I had that came from Cyber Monday? And then what's the budget that I need? What's the strategy that I need? And then when do I start cutting it off? And then after Christmas, like, what are the great products that are accessories that go along with different purchases? Or, we see this bump up after where people have gift cards and then they purchase after that. So high level, it's like just mapping it all out, making sure you've got a good full funnel strategy for these different events, tied to channels, which are tied to inventory, which is tied to your overall strategic goals. So now is the time to start planning for all these items. The better planned out you can be, the more success that you're going to have. So now is the time.
Now is the time to get that checklist in place. Hopefully this was helpful. Some actionable takeaways. But yeah, it's game time.
It's game time.
It's game time.
Yeah.
And then after Q4, for many categories, Q1 is actually their big time. Like supplements, new beauty categories, new year, new you. And so if you land in one of those, everything that applies in Q4 can be kind of applied to you in Q1 on a different timeline. So
for sure.
Joe.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Are you looking for me to lead us out? You got it.
Oh, okay.
You're better at it.
Oh, and before we go, we're going to Amazon Accelerate.
Yes.
I thought I should note that. So Joe and I will be there. A few other members of our teams. Joe is speaking.
Yep.
He's talking about sponsored products, advanced tactics, strategies. Yep. So if you are going to Accelerate, stop by and say hi.
Yep.
Go to see Joe's presentation. We're at booth 42. Can't miss us.
Yep. Yeah. Looking forward to it.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Ad Project Podcast. We'll see you next time.